The classic Re-Animator 1985 based on the H.P. Lovecraft story. If you're not familiar with it, let me sum it up in a few sentences here. It's about a couple of med students try and perfect their glowing green serum to resurrect the dead, but what ends up happening is they resurrect the bodies to a primitive zombie state where...
So it's just filler, and the whole time you're just waiting for them to pick up the stick and rock and tie it together.
And go and hunt a woolly mammoth or something, or sketch some caveman drawing on the wall.
But no, it starts off...
Because the only thing that works for them is their bowels, and...
It starts off really dope when you find out that he's even got a serum. He's in his basement with the laboratory, and it's the cat scene. That scene's awesome, classic.
Oh, yeah, you gotta mention the cat scene.
Where he reanimates the corpse.
And he ends up throwing it against the wall. That's when they're in their studio basement laboratory, and it just looks like a total studio, like Urkel's.
It's not even really, it's
like Urkel's laboratory from Family Matters. And to get the bodies, they need to go down to the morgue. And to get into the morgue, they need to go past the security guard who has the desk in the middle of the hallway.
Who's the security guard? Carl Winslow.
Smoking cigars in the hallway of this hotel. Part of this
set.
Part of this hospital that they rented out, this section, and the desk is completely like
2 feet pushed out from the wall. It's terrible.
And they have to like completely like wedge in the body so he gets like smeared on like...
Hey, but it's okay. One of the greatest horror movies ever made from Entertainment Weekly said.
Soundtrack is a Psycho ripoff, and the rest of the soundtrack is like a basketball bouncing in the background. Like literally. The rest of the soundtrack is terrible. If they didn't get the Psycho soundtrack, this movie would even be worse. So it's really, really good for it gets you going. Then the dean ends up dying, and he ends up getting reanimated. They give him the serum, and he ends up getting committed. And then his daughter ends up showing up to like sign his release over to like the other professor who wants to like reanimate him. And she's like, "Oh, I'll take care of him." As he's in the background in a padded room behind her, foaming blood at the mouth.
Like, just covered.
And John Kerry ends up blackmailing Herbert West at the ending.
He's like, "I want all of your discoveries on this liquid for the reanimation liquid." And you're like, "Oh."
And we get to see the best death scene where he ends up whacking him from behind as he's looking into the microscope at the serum to see the molecular structure that he's created for the potion to actually progress, because throughout the movie the potion gets better.
And it's fill up the butt, and then he's like, "I will be famous."
They always have to have an 80s prop head. And so he ends up shoveling off, decapitating his head. So anyway, we get towards the ending now. We're going to talk about Dan goes back to see Meg for no reason. He's basically like, "Oh, we need you to show your tits one more time."
And that's right.
And that's what the two professors kidnap her, and they end up performing surgery on her just to show her tits one last time.
It sort of jumps a whole bunch of points where it's like, oh, he's primitive, but then they're working together because they're both reanimated.
It's because he mind controlled them.
But then it goes to...
Obviously, because
they're all alive in the room that shot them all up with a 3cc.
When he brings back the bodies, they have no intelligence level, obviously, like I was saying, like blood. The only...
Okay, but if you reanimate yourself, you also...
They get super aggressive and blood comes pussing out their bowels. That pretty much sums it up. And so he's easily able to mind control the dean.
What about Wes?
So the whole movie goes really good until the ending, then it gets really retarded.
Terribly retarded. It was really, really good, and it terribly retarded out of nowhere. And it's like Wes.
And it's like a cadaver zombie war of incoherence where you don't know what's going on, and then you're like, what the hell happens to West?
Or like cracks open in like a hole, and he like gets pulled in by like an intestine.
Yeah, he gets like killed alien, like the Thing style.
Like it's a boa constrictor.
Even though he doesn't get killed, he comes back for like the sequel. And as I've never seen any of the sequels, but I heard they get progressively worse.
And he's like just like everything else. But then he's like, save my work, and I guess freaking what's his name, the guy, the girlfriend.
He takes
Ash. We call him Ash because he looks like from freaking.
even though he totally doesn't. L-Mid's just half retarded right now.
On him and everything.
And he grabs his freaking doctor bag.
Day, you're gonna say it doesn't.
And he reanimates his girlfriend. Of course, she ends up getting.
Oh, it's a real take because it cuts to the black screen, but they still show the glowing needle, and then it goes down, and it's like subliminal, like it didn't go.
Oh, it was pretty awesome how they showed the glowing green serum getting injected into her.
It was like, oh, everybody, on the floor below me is already shot up and all freaking corpse, so I might as well just do it right here in front of everyone.
I'll give it a B-. It should have been a B+. I have to say Jeffrey Combs' performance as Herbert West, the main character, the main mad scientist, medical student, unbelievable performance. I did not expect a performance like that. Tremendous actor. He's made a career just out of that movie. The rest of the actors were pretty plain, but Jeffrey Combs was amazing.
Was terrible.
Oh, I know. They just got a blonde bimbo to show her tits.
Seen with their dad.
What do you expect? Yeah, we're done. This is L-Mid and JBM.
I give it a B- too.